What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Nash here. Welcome back to the channel. Damn, it's actually been a minute since I've said that. Anyway, for today's video, we actually have something very special for you guys. It is a deck profile of a deck from an older format. It is the Mythic Ruler deck from the days of Hat format from 2013, 2014. So what's cool about this deck is that it does use up the dragon rulers. Although the interesting thing about this is that at the time that this deck was around, the dragon rulers were limited to one, and the baby rulers were banned at this time. The but what's cool about this is that there are so many plays you can make with this deck, and the end boards going first and second are absolutely insane. So without any further ado, let's get straight into it. We are going to kick things off with the vanillas. So we have 3 copies of Blue Eyes White Dragon, as well as a copy of Flamvell Guard. Weird thing is that theoretically you could run 2 copies of Guard. But the only thing is that because that you already have so many other dragon tuners in the form of cards like Debris Dragon, as well as the White Stone of Legend. You really don't want to clunk your deck with multiple copies of Guard, because this card can basically be used as fodder for cards like cards of Continents, and even also and even cards like Fool's Burial as well. And plus these two together, and you can instantly make a level 9 in the form of obviously Azure Eyes Silver Dragon, which even Azure Eyes on board going first is crazy. So definitely don't want to clunk your deck with too many copies of Guard, but 3 Blue Eyes is definitely a must have because of cards like Dragon Shrine, and even also Trade In as well. Next up, we have a copy of Mythic Water Dragon. This is where the term Mythic comes into play, because that you're also running as well Mythic Tree Dragon, which I'll explain I'll explain that a little later on. This card can come up a lot of times, as I am constantly kicking my tripod. Hang on, guys, I gotta move my tripod. There we go. Anyway, 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 because that this card can come up on so many occasions. If you open with this plus trade in, and you draw out a card like say Soul Charge, this card can ultimately become a one card rank 8 summon, which is insane. And plus, this also acts as a cyber dragon if you have an earth monster on board. So for example, if you have Redox on board and you have this in hand, you can special summon this from your hand, normal summon Flamvell Guard, and with these two you can go into a level 8, like say Crimson Blader, or perhaps Scribe Dragon, or whatever you may have at your disposal. So this card is absolutely nuts as a one of. Speaking of one ofs, we have one of all 4 Dragon Rulers. So we have 1 Blaster, 1 Tempest, 1 Redox, and of course 1 Title. So what's cool about this is that each of these has their own unique effect. So if you were to banish either of these, off of gold sarcophagus. Blaster can add any fire dragon to your hand, which obviously you're gonna add Flying Metal Guard. Tempest can add any wind dragon to your hand, which you're gonna add Debris Dragon. Redox, obviously Earth Dragon, so you're gonna add Tree Dragon, and Title, obviously you're gonna be adding Mythic Water Dragon in the process. So it's actually really cool that you're able to do that, and because of the fact that and also the fact that you're able to go into a level 8 with any of these plus this, or perhaps Whitestone of Legend. The possibilities are so out there, and you can make a multitude of rank 7s with any of these two. So you could do these two, and you can make Draco Sack. You can do these two and go Big Eye, or you can just do a mix and match and do either one, or you can go into a level 8 synchro with either of these four, plus either Flying Veil Guard or Whitestone of Legend, which is incredible. And again, all that can happen just off of this alone, which is absolutely incredible, absolutely busted. Next up, obviously we have the one copy of Mythic Tree Dragon, as well as the one Debris Dragon. Excuse me. So interestingly enough, if you open with this and you don't have a way to access this other than Foolish Burial, you can go Foolish Burial this, normal summon Debris Dragon to bring this back, and then you can go into an automatic level 8 synchro, which for the most part, if you're looking to um force your opponent to not summon out any level 5 or higher monsters, especially against decks like Mermail. Crimson Blader is definitely the one card that you're gonna want to go into if you're looking to go into a card that can pop a card from both sides of the field to ensure that your combos go off. Scribe Dragon is definitely the one that you're going to want to go into, just by having these two on board. And what's cool about Tree Dragon is that if you have Water Dragon on board, and you normal summon Tree Dragon's level becomes the same as Water Dragon, which can help you go into a level 8 a rank 8 exceeds, which is insane. Or if you have this plus Title on board, Tree Dragon's level will go up to 7, and you go into a rank 7 right off the bat, which is insane, which is incredible. And now to round out the rest of the monster lineup, we have two copies of Card Trooper as a way to mill out to try and mill out your copies of Blastoise Dragon, the Rulers, maybe even mill out Tree Dragon for this to go live, which is incredible. And then of course 3 copies of Max C. Yes, these are proxies. I don't have 2 copies of Max C, unfortunately, but Max C is just so busted in this format. And even if you're going second, going in the game 2, you always want to side these out for cards like potentially MST, maybe Cycle Reader, maybe some debunks or whatever. Which once we get into the side deck, you guys will have an understanding of why you want to side these out. And then to round out the monster lineup, we have 3 copies of the Whitestone of Legend. Obviously, Obviously, if you send this card off of cards like Card of the Continents or Fool's Burial, you get Blue Eyes White Dragon right off the bat, which is awesome. That's it for the monster lineup. There is There are 19 monsters in the deck, with I believe 14 spells in with 14 spells and 7 traps in the main deck, which are incredibly crazy. So let's get into the spells. We have 2 copies of Cards of Continents, as well as 3 copies of Trade-In for our draw cards. Obviously, Cards of Continents are for cards like are for you to send White Soul Legend to your graveyard. As well as the debris dragon to get your combos going. Trade in. You mainly want to use trade in for Blue Eyes White Dragon, especially if you have cards of Continents in hand, plus this, and this is also in your hand. Going first, you would go cards of Continents, send this to your grave, draw 2, White Stone effect to add Blue Eyes White Dragon, trade in effect, pitch Blue Eyes, draw 2. Now you have fodder for the soul charge to go into Azurai Silver Dragon, which is incredible. Next up, we got 3 copies of Dragon Shrine. Obviously, the main vanilla that you want to send off of this is obviously Flammel Guard. You could also theoretically send Blue Eyes White Dragon to your grave, but for the most part, you're gonna end up milling Flammel Guard, and then obviously milling this as well, ensuring that your synchro plays become live if you don't have any way to make them live, which is incredible. And then also too, we are also running, speaking of Soul Charge, 3 copies of Soul Charge, which is absolutely nuts in this format. You basically pay increments of 1,000, and you get to summon that many monsters from your grave. The only downside is that you don't get to conduct your battle phase. But if you're going first, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter, because as long as you have monsters in your grave, your end boards going first will be astronomically insane, depending on what your opening hand looks like. For the 1-ups, we've got the 1 Foolish Burial, the 1 Gold Sark, and then of course the 1 Burial from a different dimension, which is actually convenient, because if you have say for example you send Blue Eyes White Dragon and White Stone Legend to your banish pile to summon out a Dragon Ruler, and you go Gold Sark on a second ruler to get its effect off to add that attribute dragon, you can go Burial, you can go effective Burial, put those 3 back into your graveyard, then rebanish Blue Eyes and remill the Blue Eyes and the White Soul Legend to summon out that ruler, and you basically go into a rank 7, which is absolutely which is crazy. So that's pretty much it for the spell lineup. Obviously there are other spells that you could potentially do. Like, yeah, sure, you could do a third Cards of Continents. But this is definitely better because of the fact that you don't want to overcommit to decking yourself out, which is the reason why if you're going second, you always want to side out the max C's. For the traps, we have 3 Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, 2 Skill Drain, and then for the one-ups, we got Torrential and of course Rivalry of Warlords, which is perfect against decks like Gear Artifacts, and a couple, and I think Mermails actually. Going second, you want to side this out just because of the fact that it really doesn't do much going. It really doesn't do much going first. It's better as like a side deck card, in my opinion. But if you're going second, you always want to side this out for something like a debunk or something. But that's pretty much it for the main deck. For the extra deck, we have, for our synchros, we got Black Rose Dragon, we have Stardust Dragon, we've got Stardust Spark Dragon, we have Colossal Fighter, Scrap Dragon, Crimson Blader, Azurize Silver Dragon, and then of course Star Eater. Sad thing, I wish I still had my Ghost Rare Star Eater that I pulled on the channel from Judgment of the Light, because that would have been awesome. But for those who don't know what any of these cards do, Black Rose on summon, it literally on synchro summon, it literally nukes the entire board, which is really cool, because if you have where is it here, if you have this on board, you can go effect a Felgrand, detach one of its materials, and it's unaffected, so it does not get popped by Black Rose Dragon, which we'll get to that in a little while. Stardust Dragon is obviously a destruction negate. Stardust Spark Dragon can also protect cards from being destroyed by card effects, which is incredible. Colossal Fighter is mainly used against the hero decks, which is insane. Scrap Dragon can pop cards on the board, which is insane. Crimson Blader, whenever it destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, your opponent is not allowed to normal or special summon level 5 or higher monsters during their next turn, making it probably one of the most insane floodgates we've seen for this format in a long time. Would I say that this card is perfect for Modern? No. Reason being is because there are other cards in the format that can stop the opponent from special summoning monsters. Summon limit is one, as well as the obviously the Mole Charmers, which is crazy. Asia Rise can on summon protect itself and also other dragons you have on board from being targeted or destroyed by card effects. And during your standby phase, you can summon out Blue Eyes White Dragon from your grave, which is insane. Absolutely insane. And then Star Eater, I honestly don't remember what Star Eater did, but it's a pretty crazy ass card. So, excuse me, if you guys do remember what Star Eater does, you guys can drop them in the comments below. But Star Eater, you're mainly gonna be summoning Star Eater as a board, as sort of like a board ender, if you will. But that's pretty much it for the synchros. For the Xyz, we have Exciton Knight, we got number 11, we have 2 copies of Draco Sack, number 15, we have Divine Dragonite Felgrant, and of course Heretic Sun Dragon, Overlord of Heliopolis, which again is another proxy, unfortunately, but But Exciton Knight is basically Black Rose Dragon on a rank 4 body. Big Eye can basically snatch steal one of your opponent's monsters. Draco Sack can summon tokens. It can't be targeted by card effects as long as you have tokens on board, and you can ditch one of those tokens to pop one of your opponent's cards, which is incredible. Number 15 can destroy one of your opponent's monsters and deal them damage equal to that monster's original attack, which is awesome. Felgrang obviously protects, and then Heliopolis is, from what I'm understanding, is just a beater. It's just a beater that I believe can protect itself, or something like that. I could be wrong. I don't remember, but that's pretty much it for the extra deck. For the side deck, this is mainly again going up against decks like Gear Gia, and of course Artifacts. So we have 3 copies of Ally of Justice Cycle Reader. So what this card does, I'll even show it off right here. The effect reads as followed. Quick effect, you can discard this card to the grave, target up to 2 light monsters in your opponent's grave, banish those targets. That basically is essentially DD Crow. It's literally DD Crow for fucking artifacts, which is absolutely broken. Speaking of DD Crow, we actually have 3 copies of DD Crow, which is pretty cracked. Xyz Encore. This is a bit of a weird card for the deck, but here is what the card does. Target a face-up Xyz monster your opponent controls. Whoop. Your opponent controls that has material. Detach all materials from it, and if you do, return it to the extra deck. Then, if there's a monster card in the graveyard among those detached materials, special summon as many of those monsters as possible from the grave to your opponent's field in face of defense. Their levels are reduced by 1 on the field, and now the player can activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation. This card is absolutely busted because this can literally force your opponent to. This card literally forces your opponent to make a rash decision in protecting your that one Xyz monster from being targeted. So let's say for example your opponent has a copy of Felgrand, and let's say they have a copy of let's say Draco Sack. If you go Xyz Encore on the Draco Sack, and Felgrand only has one material left, then essentially it won't have any way to protect itself, which is horrendously insane. Absolutely busted, you guys. Xyz Encore, definitely a crazy card. Then of course we have 1 copy of Dark Hole, 3 copies of MST, 1 copy of Twister, which I am looking to take that one out and throwing in a second Xyz Encore. Just because of the fact that there's already enough back row removal in the form of the MST, so I might take this out and throw in a second Xyz Encore. I'm still thinking about it, but for now I do have the Twister, and to round out the whole extra deck itself, I am running 3 copies of Debunk. So if you guys do not know what this card does, the effect reads as followed. When a monster effect is activated in the hand or grave, negate the activation, and if you do, banish it. So if your opponent activates DD Crow and they banish one of your dragons, like say for example they banish let's say they banish Redox. Let's just say that you can play this. DD Crow gets negated and it gets banished right off the bat, which is absolutely insane. And speaking of Draco Sack, I also have some tokens here. that I'm using for the Draco sack as well. So with that, so honestly, my opinion on this deck is it's absolutely insane. There are quite a few plays you can make with this deck. One of the biggest plays, one of the biggest end boards, one of the best end boards you can have going first, it would probably be like would probably be Draco Sack, Felgrand plus Big Eye, or 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 Draco Sack plus Felgrand and Crimson Blader. There are so many plays you can make with this deck. It's absolutely insane. It's just it's such a good deck. It's such a cool deck. I've been taking this with me over to Bear Cave on Sundays, playing against my friend Angel. Shout outs to him. He was actually one of the guys that got me into playing half format. Um, which again the format is just absolutely insane, absolutely incredible. Such a great format. A lot more interaction in half format than there would be with than there would be with other formats, you know, like Zodiac format or like Go format or something like that. But yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this old school deck profile. If you guys did, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button. If you guys are new to the channel and you guys want more deck profiles in the future, because I do have others on the back burner, be sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and as always, make sure you guys are following me on all of my social media. All of my ats will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.